verse 4, this is what it says. Bayom hashlishi, vayisa Avram et einav, vayare et hamakom merachok. Again, Bayom hashlishi, vayisa Avram et einav, vayare et hamakom merachok. Step number 1, let's divide the sentence. If you see sentence like this on the exam, you are actually not going to see the verses, so it's not going to be as simple as here. But even if you do not see verse 5 here, you see two things. First of all, you clearly see a vav consecutive right here, and therefore you already know that this is a new sentence. Also, Masoretz helped you here by putting these two dots here. That is also a sign of a new sentence coming right after this. So even without knowing and seeing this verse 5, you know that this is a new sentence. Looking at this sentence, Bayom hashlishi, we have vav consecutive right there. You could move that as a new sentence. Vayisa Avram et einav, and we have another vav consecutive, so that could be a new sentence. Vayare et hamakom merachok. Remember, what are the signs of a new sentence? It's either vav, that is the most important, especially vav consecutives when you're in a story. Asher is number 2. There is a lot of ashers in the Bible, and ki goes with it. Not as common as asher, but also very common. After that, any new verb. There are some exceptions we talked about. And finally, question markers, like who, which, where, etc. Okay, so let's start from the very beginning. Bayom hashlishi. This is an introductory phrase here. Bet, meaning of bet in English is in, by, with, against. The most common one is in. So usually when you see bet is in, but these other things are a possibility as well. Remember, with infinitive construct, bet is actually a temporal, and in translation it should be translated as while or when or during or something like that. Okay, so let's just try in. Let's stick with the most common one for now. In yom, that's a day. From your vocabulary, you already know that. In the day ha-shlishi, and this is a number. I know we did not talk a lot about numbers, but it is on your vocabulary, and it's number 3. So in the day, the third, and we have that definite article. By the way, numbers work like adjectives, so they could be attributive or predicate. And because we have the definite article on there, it's going to be attributive. So in the third day, okay, and this is what happened. Vayisa Avram et einav. Step number 1, let's find a verb, and here it's very easy. Why? Because we have vav consecutive, vayi. And vav consecutive is on a verb, therefore you know this is going to be a verb. Even if you don't recognize what kind of a verb it is, you see the vayi, the vav consecutive 3ms, and therefore you know what's coming up next is a verb. Also remember that usually verbs are at the front of a sentence. So here, let's do the parsing. The verb is vayisa. I put it here already for you. It is a weak verb, so what I would tell you on the exam for now is that the root is nasa. Okay, something happened there, the nun dropped, and you are left with vayisa. However, even if you don't know what nasa is for now, you see vayi. And vayi immediately tells you that it is vav consecutive, and you know that a vav, let me change this to black, there. So it's a vav consecutive, which vav consecutive means imperfect, right? So vav consecutive, and yod in the imperfect, which we have right here, that yod right there, that tells you it is third masculine. After that, look at the end. If there is u, it would be plural. This one does not have that u, so it's third masculine singular. the only thing you have left is the stem, and if you look under that yod, you have an E sound, and E sound gives you three options, and they are, you should know this, the three options are kal, nifal, or hitpile. Then you can just very quickly go through the process of elimination. First of all, hitpile, usually you can take that out, it would have a tav right there, right? So that's out. This one can throw you off a little bit, but I will give you something similar on the exam, so do not get thrown off by this. Nifal, how do you know nifal? Dagesh in the first root letter, okay? And the key word here is that dagesh needs to be in the first root letter. Now I told you that the root of this is nasa. So the first root letter is nun. We don't even have that nun there. You don't even see it. And therefore it's not even an option for this to be a nifal because we don't have that dagesh there. Now you may think that this is the first root letter because it's right after the yod, but it's not. This is actually the second because the first is not there. It's hiding, right? It's actually this little dot there. So this is kal. It ends up to be kal. So the parsing is vav, consecutive imperfect of 3ms from the root nasa. It's kal, and nasa means to go up or lift up. So let's look at our sentence here. Vaisa Avram et Einav. Then, or after that, so then Abraham, we have, or let's start with he. Then he, 3ms, right? Lifted up, and we have Abraham, and then we have et, which tells us the direct object. Et, then he lifted up Abraham, the something he lifted up, Einav. We have the vav at the end, that is a 3ms suffix, his, and ein is I, and here we have it in plural because of the construct. He lifted up his eyes. By the way, why is this in plural? Because it has a suffix. Every time you have a noun that has a suffix, that noun must be in plural, because nouns in absolute cannot take a suffix. One more thing that you have to do to make this into English, then he lifted up Abraham his eyes, is to take Abraham and put him as the subject here. Then Abraham lifted up his eyes. Remember that in Hebrew, usually they start with the verb, that's the regular word order in a sentence, and after that we have the subject. In English, you have to reverse that. Then Abraham lifted up, what did he lift it up? The direct object, his eyes. Next sentence. Vayar et hamakom merachok. Okay, so again we see the vav consecutive here, right at the front. So you know that it's going to be a verb. That's an easy way of finding that verb, and usually verb is at the front. It does not have to be at the front, but usually it is if it is a regular sentence order, word order in a sentence. For the parsing here, I would have told you that the root is actually ra'a, so ra'a, like that, but you need to do the rest. You see that it says vav consecutive, which by the way means that it's imperfect, right? It's the same thing. And you have the yod there, and anytime you see the yod, you know that's a third masculine. Then look at the end. If there is an u, it's plural. If there is no u, like in this case, it's singular. And one more thing we have left is a stem. Now, I would have actually given you the stem, but before I tell you what it is, I just want you to see the regular stem. If you have a yod and under the yod is a sound, normally this is he feel. Okay, so this is just a quick review. This is an irregular verb, and I would have given this to you on the exam. This is a kal. You don't need to know why. Just memorize. If you see a, it's always he feel. Okay, if it's not, I would have told you, like in this case. Let's translate this sentence. So then 3ms yot, then he, and the verb ra'a means to see, so then he saw et, and we have a direct object marker, so we know what he saw. So he saw something. He saw hamakom. Makom is a place, so he saw the place. Rachok, I don't think that's on your vocabulary, it means distance, but you see the mem, which means from, right? So he saw the place from the distance.